It's day 2 here at the PRI show. We got our short block built last night. We didn't get the cam in, so we're gonna do that today. This cam came from Cam Motion. They spec'd it out specifically for this build. I've got the cam card right here, so let's go over its specs a little bit. So it's got 116 degrees of lobe separation angle, so there's not too much overlap with the boost. It's got 670 thousandths of lift on the intake side. It's got 653 on the exhaust side with our rocker arm ratios. It's got 242 degrees of intake duration at 50 and 254 degrees of exhaust duration. So we have a lot more exhaust than intake because the blower's making all kinds of spent gases. We gotta get them out. So this cam should make quite a bit of power. Looking at the specs, and yeah, this thing's gonna make some noise. It's gonna boom.
All right, good morning. We're here at PRI. It's day 2. Yesterday we got the short block finished up. We're about to install the camshaft so that we can start knocking out the long block. Before we do that, we have to install a phaser lockout in this Mopar phaser so that there's no excessive cam movement with the high spring pressures and horsepower. So this lockout from Cam Motion, you'll see as I pull this apart, it literally just slides in and it'll eliminate any free movement of the phaser. Right now I'm verifying the TDC on my timing wheel so that we can degree this cam and verify the cam is installed correctly.
I'm here with Kale from Melling. Kale, we have this cool new pump. It's a Hellcat pump or it's a Hellcat aftermarket pump? Tell me about it.
So what this pump is, this is the high volume version of our 10452 pump, which is a standard volume pump for the later model Gen 3 Hemi engines. This is the standard volume pump for the Hellcat engines. The Hellcat engine OE pump was 20% higher volume than the later model OE pump.
And I'm assuming that's due to the supercharger and the supercharging system.
Mainly, yes.
And the requirements for all that.
Yep.
Which is why it's perfect for this, because we're going to make 1,200 horsepower like a Hellcat will.
Exactly.
In the same fashion, just turn it a little bit.
Yep. We want a little more volume, get that pressure up in a boosted engine, put a little bit more oil in those clearances. That way we've got a little bit better shock absorption from the added cylinder pressure. Awesome.
So, are there any RPM limitations with a gerotor type pump?
Any wet sump pump, there are limitations to. A lot of those limitations are based on the build as far as windage. Controlling the windage in the engine is really, the big issue with, we've got to keep that oil down in the bottom of the pan and off the crank.
Okay, so we're running windage tray and we're probably only going to spin this to maybe 6,500, probably 6,000, so we should be pretty good.
Should have absolutely no problems with that RPM.
Awesome, so I'm looking forward to running this on the dyno and making some big power.
Okay, good deal.
Right along on day 2, and we're getting ready to put the oil pan on. And for this build, we're using Mylodon's Gen 3 Hemi oil pan with their windage tray. The cool genesis of this particular part was this went on the 2nd generation drag packs, which really took care of some high RPM oiling issues. And one thing Mylodon's really good at is controlling oil. Between the trapdoor baffles and all the heavy, blocking off here, and their windage tray design that really controls oil slosh, you can be going, 8,000 RPM through the traps and not have to worry about any kind of oil starvation or oil iteration. So when we're making, 1,200 horsepower at probably not as high on RPM as the drag packs are spinning through the traps. We know we're going to be extra. So we're getting ready to put the damper on the Hemi. Our friends at ATI sent us over this super damper. This particular model has the incorporated supercharger drive, the 10-rib supercharger drive, and this model is a 10% overdrive model. That means that it spins the blower 10% faster than the standard damper. Now that's going to mean a lot of boost. We're already going to be making a ton of power. This 1200 is not going to be hard at all. So before we can put the heads on, we've got to get the lifters in. Our lifters are a set of Johnson lifters. They are their short travel race lifters, and they might look familiar to you because they're very similar to an LS lifter, a little bit longer. And like an LS, they have flats on them that slot into a lifter tray to prevent rotation and keep the wheel in line with the cam lift. The short travel is about a third of a factory lifter travel, and it's going to more efficiently translate the cam lobe's motion into valve motion. So with that, we need to go get these into the block so that we can get the heads on. So here are the heads that are going on our Gen 3 Hemi. They come from Vitec, and so does Craig.
Yes, how you doing?
So Craig, tell me a little bit about the genesis of the Vitec Hemi head.
Been out roughly about 12 years. It was more of, started off as a replacement head. That's kind of the angle with everything, where stock rocker, stock intakes, headers, everything. So it's a true bolt-on head. Manufactured in the USA, A356, T6 aluminum. This head has the 2165, 1650 valve sizes with the 72cc chamber, which is my standard chamber with a taper quench added to it or softened.
Well, now let's talk real quick about the chambers. That's what makes a Hemi, right?
Yeah.
The hemispherical
design.
What was so popular about the hemispherical over, say, a kidney shape or the wedge?
These work really great for boost. Older Hemi guys say that this isn't a real Hemi, but it is. Peak flow on these is, depending on bench, 400, 405 CFM.
Oh, wow. And what's the runner volume?
It's approximately 205 cc.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of flow for not a lot of running.
The port's deceiving, actually, because when you look at it, it comes at an angle, but if you go straight up and down, it's definitely a different shape to it. On the exhaust side, this has our 2-inch header port in it. They'll peak 270, 275 without a pipe on a 4060 bore.
So these heads are going to handle everything we throw at it with this bad boy right here.
Oh, yeah.
In order to seal up the heads, once we put them on, we've gone with Cometic's MLX line of MLS gaskets. These are 4150 bore. They're 054 thick, which is going to give us a good solid compression ratio for boost. The MLS design is really going to withstand all the cylinder pressure we can create and stand up to the power. And I know that LME uses these on the day-to-day, and so we decided to use them on this build.
What do these get torqued to?
782 foot-pounds.
700, where's that breaker bar you're talking about?
the heads come a very, very, very awesome valve train from Jessel. I've got Grant here from Jessel. Can you tell me a little bit about your new Hemi valve train?
Sure, Greg. So this is a direct factory replacement bolt-on system. Utilizes factory shafts. Push rods are in the same location, doesn't require any clearance in the cylinder head, no machine work whatsoever. Features are, they're made out of our proprietary forging that we make our top fuel rockers out of. Bronze bushings, needle roller, adjusterless cup, press in, pressurized oiling through the shaft to the cup, down through the push rod to the lifter, just like a traditional factory style, so you can maintain your hydraulic lifters. And you can run up to about 700 thousandths lift or more in most applications. It's a real nice piece, direct bolt-on. Tie in these stank, bridges between these nice retaining collars to, keep everything in place, and it's a real nice package overall.
So you've got more stiffness than even a standard shaft rocker system.
Absolutely, even just with these braces, but when you tie everything together, really it kind of creates a complete package with the upgraded hardware. It's kind of hard to top it, really.
And we were talking, this is part of Drag Pack? Or this came from Drag Pack?
It was inspired with the Drag Pack motor when Dodge came out with that. There was a need for it, and we kind of stepped up to the plate and said, all right, let's get into this. And we at the time already had a kit available, but it required a lot of machine work. So it wasn't exactly your weekend driver friendly type of product. And we felt that it was time that we brought something more available for a wider variety of applications to the market.
Well, considering how many of these engines we see on the street, making huge power, it only makes sense to have a nice bolt-on setup that isn't, super custom.
Right, it is. And granted, it's not for everybody, but for those that are in the upper power level range, it's definitely a huge benefit for valve train stability, as well as longevity of the motor entirely. When parts aren't happy and flex around a lot, it causes unnecessary wear throughout the entire engine, and this kind of solves a lot of those problems.
Now, this being the bolt-on versus your old custom one, are there any limitations of this one compared to your other one, or is this just a bolt-on solution for everything?
This is a bolt-on solution for a majority of applications, but when you really start getting serious and into higher lift, say you run a longer valve, things of that nature, we're limited with the factory mounting locations and the factory shaft locations, so there's only so much we can really do.
When you start to mess with that, you're getting out of bolt-on territory anyway.
Yeah, we're getting away from this and getting a little more serious, which we do have offerings for, but this is just a real nice factory replacement type piece for
anybody
hard to beat. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys supporting us, because thanks to you, we can make power reliably and not have to worry about anything, because I know this blower will make twice the power we want to make.
Oh, sure.
So it's good to know we have supporting parts. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for supporting us.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your time.
Our engine build process, we always talk about LME being a great build partner, and they are, but there's so much more than that. As you can see here, there's a bunch of billet valve covers. They're also a parts manufacturer. They've released a new billet block at this show. We've got new billet intakes. Colin, tell me a little bit about the manufacturing side, because you guys build engines, and I don't want to take away from that, but you also make parts.
Yeah, so LME has started out originally as just doing cylinder heads, then we got into engine building, and within the last 5 years we've really gotten into doing a lot of the manufacturing of billet parts. So when the Gen 5 LT came out, that's kind of when we started doing most of all of our billet parts. We came up with a variable valve timing delete front cover. That was our most popular billet part starting off probably in the 2018, 2019 era. And then going from there, we just started building intakes for almost everything. Now we have intakes for LS, LT, Godzilla, and obviously we're doing Gen 3 Hemi stuff now, so we're just trying to make parts for everything, and the more new engines that come out, we're just going to keep building more products for them.
So now we're here to discuss starting and charging for our Gen 3 Hemi, and we're here with Todd from PowerMaster. Todd, the first thing I want to talk about is one of one. This is literally the first prototype of the new starter. Can you tell me a little bit about it and what we're seeing new with the prototype?
Well, with more and more Hemi swaps becoming more prevalent stuff, we're getting more calls for late model Hemi starters, of course. So the team has been able to put together this compact, nice lightweight starter. It's got plenty of high torque to it. It's got a billet mounting block, and you can see that, since we don't know what this is going in, it depends on the transmission, but even more so with different headers, frames, body parts and stuff, we can clock it so it'll make lots of good clearance when you install it.
So it's not just for different applications, it's for different applications.
Yes, who knows what this engine's going to end up being in, and then since they're putting late model Hemis in just about anything these days, we got to be prepared, and with the clocking, it'll fit pretty much anything.
Very cool. So so we're going to start and then we're going to charge it.
Yeah,
so
we got the cranking and the charging.
Yeah, so let's talk about the alternator here. Is this a power? Is this a Hemi specific unit, or is this just a Hemi specific bracket?
No, this is a Hemi specific. It's what we call our HPR starters, which make great current at lower RPM as well as at higher RPM. This one's going to make up to 195 amps at idle, and then 250 at top RPM. And the great thing is it's a direct bolt-in onto the factory Hemi bracket, so it'll go into Jeeps and Hellcats and everything like that. And there's two different sizes. There's a large frame and a small frame, depending on your application, but it's a direct bolt-in.
And the frame sizes, does that affect charging ability?
Yeah, this is the large frame, so it's that 195, 250. On the small frames, they're 150 to 190, just because we can't pack as much material into them.
Well, back in the day, 150 was a big peak for us, and now we're talking about doing that at idle.
At idle speeds. These modern engines idle so low that we had to go back to the drawing boards and develop a complete internal system that could support fuel pumps and fans and ECUs and air conditionings and stereos, all when you're sitting at an idle at the fairgrounds at a stoplight or in the staging lanes.
So no more flickering needle, no more.
No more. It's going to be a rock solid needle just sitting there.
Very cool. And we're probably not going to spin it super high, so we don't have to worry about overspinning it. But we're going to be putting a lot of power through it, and it's going to be making a lot of power. So I guess power is the key word here.
Power is the key word to PowerMaster. That's it. We're going to make it all for you, so you guys can make more power. But on that subject, the other cool thing is this makes all that energy, makes all that current with a stock diameter pulley. So we're not overdriving the alternator. You can use your factory belt, so it's one more thing when you upgrade your late model Hemi, you don't have to change the factory belt.
Very cool. Because nothing's worse than when you're having to completely reroute everything else for a new accessory.
Yeah, and make 3 trips to the part store to get the right belt. Nobody likes to do that, so it's a direct bolt-in application.
All right, well, thank you, Todd. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys supporting our project, and I cannot wait to see these things on the dyno.
No, we're really excited to see this on the dyno and on the finished project, and to whoever wins the engine, what they're going to install it in. We're looking forward to it.
Well, that's right, because you have to talk to them and figure out what we're going to get them.
We're going to see what we can do on the starter.
And this right here is the star of the show. This is the power maker, the noise maker, the boost maker. It's a 3.8 liter Whipple Supercharger, but it's a Gen 6. We have Dustin Whipple to explain to me what's new in the Gen 6.
Yeah, well, the Gen 6 is basically an enhancement from what the Gen 5 was. We went to a newer rotor profile. It's a little bit longer rotor, a little smaller diameter, and a new profile. That's the main part of it. And then after that, we came up with a new port shape to help increase airflow at a lot longer RPM ran. What that helps is you don't have to race port one.
it's out
up
of
to a
box.
much higher RPM. So right from there, and you lose no torque, but you gain a lot of power all the way up to about 21,000 RPM.
Okay, so now I remember when we did a test, we did a Gen 3 to Gen 5,
Yeah.
and we picked up significant power.
Yes.
Are we looking at the same kind of gains from Gen 5 to Gen 6?
Not quite as much as that, because that was groundbreaking difference, right? But this between Gen 5 and Gen 6 at the peak levels will be about 350 to 400 horsepower variance.
Okay.
So it is still very significant, but it's obviously based off of RPM and boost and everything else. In a stock form, it would be a lot less. Obviously, it is a significant gain in power and efficiency, so it is better all around. But yeah. The biggest power is the more modifications, the more airflow this thing needs to pump, the better this is going to be.
Yeah. Now this is a 3.8. Will a 3.0 liter be coming in the Gen 6?
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming very soon. Very similar design. It uses the exact same lid, and very similar to exactly what this is right here. So it's got all the new port shapes, new rotor profile as well. Yeah. So that's for the Hemi and Hellcat are both coming out.
Okay. So now, what are we looking at airflow wise on this? What is this capable of? Because this thing's massive. It's a big boost maker.
The main goal in a full race trim, with very good heads, some very good head gaskets. This can make about 2,800 horsepower.
So the 1,200 that we're going to be making with it's still going to be asleep.
Yeah. This will be 1,200, not a problem.
So. Are we doing anything with the pulley size for this? Like, are we just since this is so capable, are we just going to run a really big pulley up top so there's no belt slip issues?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. The Hellcat belt system already has a pretty big balancer for the smaller blower, stock. So even with that biggest pulley we can fit on there, it's still got a lot of power.
How much boost do you think we're going to be making on that combo?
I would say somewhere in the low 20 psi range.
Okay, so we're going to be making some big boosts.
Yeah, it's gonna make some power. Yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, we thank you very, very much for being a part of this project, and I am so excited to hear this thing spool up because they make such a beautiful music.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, our time at PRI with this engine build is coming to a close, but it's not over for you. You still have until April 2nd to go to enginelabsgiveaway.com and get entered to win our Gen 3 Hemi. This thing has gone together amazingly well. It's gonna make a ton of power. Vinny has busted his butt. Vinny, you've been here for 3 of them now. Give me your thoughts on the Hemi, number 3 of the big 3.
Another platform to test out and see what we can do with it. Planning on making some bigger power with this one, I think.
So the next time you see this thing, it's going to be on LME's dyno down in Texas. We're going to make the numbers we said it was going to make. Make sure you stay tuned to the Power and Performance YouTube channel. Make sure to go check out Engine Labs on YouTube as well. A big thank you to all of our sponsors, Summit, LME. Without you guys, this wouldn't be happening. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. We'll see you at the dyno.